Good evening. I'd like to welcome you to our board meeting this evening of February 10th, 2010 of Lake Washington School Board. So please let the record reflect that all board members are present. Director LaLiberty is actually joining us by telephone. So here, Director LaLiberty, if you can say hello.
Hello.
There he is. So we will do this is our first time of the teleconferencing in. He unfortunately wasn't able to make it, but we will be working with trying to make sure that he is able to participate and you all can hear what he is saying as well. So with that, I will entertain a motion to approve the February 10th agenda.
Second.
It's been moved by Director Stewart and seconded by Director Sage to approve the agenda. All those in favor, please signify by voting aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Real quick, just interject here. We're the consent agenda right now? I didn't quite catch that.
No,
Sorry.
that's actually at the just the whole agenda. The consent agenda isn't up yet.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, then aye.
So he voted yes to approve the agenda.
Yes. Okay. So tonight we do have a couple of recognitions that we'd like to do. So Dr. Stavum, if you could start with our first recognition.
I would love to, because I get to be the superintendent of Lake Washington School District that has the best board of directors anywhere. And so it is all kinds of fun for me to read the formal recognition that has been put forward by Governor Inslee that recognizes school board directors all over the state of Washington. And we're actually a little bit late because of our canceled board meeting because of our snow last month, but we wanted to go ahead and recognize you tonight for all of the volunteer hours that goes into being a board of directors member and all of the ways that you support the students and the families and the communities that make up our school district. For instance, some of our board members traveled just this last week to Washington, D.C. to advocate for our district and students all over Washington at a federal level. A couple of our board members were in Olympia yesterday and today advocating for our school district at a state level. And so they put in hours and hours of time. They get to read lots of fun documents and laws and policies, and they help us do our very best thinking as a school district as we try and serve our students very, very well. So, whereas the mission of Washington's public school system is to assure that all students achieve at high levels and possess a knowledge and skills to be responsible citizens of a democratic society who enjoy productive and satisfying lives. And whereas Washington's 295 locally elected school boards and 9 elected educational service district boards are the core of the public education governance system in our state. And whereas the districts and regions they lead serve more than 1 million students, have a combined annual budget of over $15 billion, and employ approximately 120,000 people. And whereas school directors play a crucial role in promoting student learning and achievement by creating a vision, establishing policies and budgets, and setting clear standards of accountability for all involved. And whereas school directors are directly accountable to the citizens in their districts and regions, serving as a vital link between members of the community and their schools. And whereas school directors and educational service districts provide a passionate voice of advocacy for public schools and the welfare of school children. And whereas it is appropriate to recognize school directors as outstanding volunteers and champions for public educations. Now therefore, Jay Inslee, Governor of the State of Washington, does hereby proclaim January 2020 or belated February 2020 as School Board Recognition Month in Washington. And so again, we know that you all serve out of a true sense of duty to children and making sure that they have a very strong and robust public education. And so we want to offer our thanks to you by presenting you with the books that you have have at your place. And we selected some books this year that go with our themes of our strategic plan and wellness. My personal favorite is the book that has the naked mole rat as a central character. And we have books that are appropriate for all 3 levels. And so we have some placards that we'll ask you to fill out and choose the schools that will be recipients of those books this year, as a way to connect what we're doing with ways that you can connect directly to our school. So thank you for everything that you do. We appreciate you greatly.
Thank you. Thank you. It's always great fun to have these books and be able to get those to the libraries, and then the kids get to be able to read them. They're always very fun, so look for them in your schools. So with that, we now have 2 additional proclamations, and I've asked Director Sage to read our one on career and technical education.
So this also is a proclamation on career and technical education, and I have to say it's a little lengthy, but it is worth every word. Whereas career and technical education offers students the opportunity to gain in the academic, technical, and employability skills necessary for true career readiness, and whereas students in career and technical ed programs participate in authentic, meaningful experiences that improve the quality of their education and increase student engagement and achievement, and whereas career and technical education provides students with career exploration opportunities earlier in their educational experience, which enables them to make informed and beneficial decisions about their academic coursework, as well as pursuit of established programs of study and career pathways. And whereas leaders from business and industry nationwide report increasing challenges related to the skills gap and connecting qualified professionals with available careers in critical and growing CTE-related fields, including healthcare, energy, advanced manufacturing, and information technology. And whereas career and technical education prepares students for these and other fulfilling careers by offering integrated programs of study that link secondary and post-secondary education and lead to the attainment of industry-recognized credentials. And whereas ensuring that employers have access to a qualified workforce is a crucial step in ensuring productivity among the business and industry communities, as well as continued American economic growth and global competitiveness. And whereas Lake Washington School District has approximately 7,931 students participating in 110 different career and technical education course options taught by 116 career and technical education teachers. Therefore, the Board of Directors do hereby proclaim February 1st through 29th, 2020 as Career and Technical Education Month in the Lake Washington School District.
Thank you. And the next proclamation we have is the National School Counseling Week. And as we all know, our school counselors play a vital role in our schools in ensuring we have a really positive and healthy school climate for our kids. Hopefully you all know your school counselor and you've seen them. So this is a time to just sort of celebrate the work they do and how they help to guarantee our kids do well as well. So whereas Lake Washington School District's 88 school counselors help students reach their full potential, and whereas school counselors are actively committed to helping students explore their abilities, strengths, interests, and talents as these traits relate to career awareness and development, and whereas school counselors help parents focus on ways to further the educational, personal, and social growth of their children, and whereas school counselors work with teachers and other educators to help students explore their potential and set realistic goals for themselves, and whereas school counselors seek to identify and utilize community resources that can enhance and complement comprehensive school counseling programs and help students become productive members of society, and whereas comprehensive developmental school counseling programs are considered an integral part of the educational process that enables all students to achieve success in school, therefore, the Board of Directors of Lake Washington do hereby proclaim February 3rd to the 7th, 2020 as National School Counseling Week in the Lake Washington School District. Thank you. And so, Dr. Stavum, if you could do us the favor of introducing our host school or host program this evening.
I will, and we had another host school scheduled, if you remember, for the night that we were snowed out, and so they will be with us at the next meeting because we had to help our PTSA stay with their schedule for reflections. And I have to say, this is one of our favorite times of the year when the student artwork goes up and we get to come down and see all of the entries and we start fighting over them. And we actually start talking about which ones we want. And I think we should have a student art auction because I'm telling you, we start outbidding each other when we can't even buy them. And they are beautiful, and it just lights up our whole first floor, and we look at them for days on end. And so we appreciate the entries of all of our students and all of the different ways they express their artistic talents, and we appreciate the coordination of this program. So I'm going to turn it over to Mindy Lincecum.
Thank you, Dr. Stavum, members of the board. We're pleased to be here and appreciate the time to just let you know a little about what PTA is doing in the school district throughout the PTA's district-wide. I'm Mindy Lincecum. I'm the president of the Lake Washington PTSA Council, which is our district-wide PTA. We support all of the 44 neighborhood PTAs, local school PTAs that we have in our district. Our PTA membership is up to just about 17,000 members. So we have a lot of parents involved, and we represent, help train the leaders that help guide those PTAs. There are over 400 officers of those 44 PTAs. And we're hoping to get slides up. Well, I know we are. So. The mission of the Lake Washington PTSA Council is to serve as a relevant resource to local PTAs, families, and community members in the Lake Washington School District, and to advocate for the health, well-being, and education of every child. We help support our PTAs and our community in a number of ways, and one of those is the Reflections Art Program, which we'll be able to highlight at the end of our presentation tonight. You see some of our featured artists on some of the grids on the sides here. A couple of our other programs. One is featured our scholarship program. There's a poster over there against the brick wall that has some more details about that as well, if you have a chance to browse around this evening. Our local PTSA Council Board of Directors, just like a local PTA has a board of officers that serve there, our Council PTA has 18 members of its Board of Directors this year. We work to support our 44 local PTAs. We serve as a bridge between the district and those local PTAs, as well as providing programs for the entire Lake Washington School District community. And we help our PTAs to be equipped to advocate for all students in our district and across Washington State.
You're doing a great job, Mindy.
I can see the slides, even if the rest of you can't. Yeah, I leave the art to our Reflections program. All right. Some of our communications efforts that are particularly useful to our PTAs, the ways that we support those, we put out a weekly newsletter to over 600 recipients. Those are all of our current PTA leaders, committee chairs, officers at the local PTAs, that it's full of information of upcoming events, opportunities for them to get trained or connected, and information that they should pass on to their local communities. We also do a monthly newsletter called Currents, and this goes out to over 1,000 people, both current and former PTA leaders, as well as other community partners. And there we feature not only PTA information, but information from the Lake Washington Schools Foundation, from the school district, and from other community partners that can be beneficial to our PTAs. This year alone, we offered more than 24 in-person training classes for all of those PTA officers so that they could be better equipped to do their jobs in leading their local PTAs. And we have a website, and the address is right up there. Just can't see it, no. Our website is www.lwptsa.net, where there's a lot of information and links to people who can get you more. There we go. Just going through some of our different areas of programming and the highlights that we've had this year. In our family and community engagement efforts, this was our third year of sponsoring a new and international families welcome event. We're grateful to partner with the district in getting that done. We welcomed over 100 families in September, and for the first time this year, we added an event in January and welcomed an additional 70 people who attended in January, many of whom said they had moved into the area in the previous month. So it was a well-placed event, and we plan to repeat that. We offer parent education events year-round, both ones that are co-sponsored by the district and the PTSA Council, funded by the district, thank you very much, and hosted by council. And then we also help our local PTAs bring in parent education speakers with grants and organizational support there. We're hosting an Adulting 101 event for our high schoolers, specifically juniors and seniors, in March. We've been partnering with Lake Washington Schools Foundation and their new Balance in Mind group to offer events and mental health advocacy efforts. And our special education group meets and hosts monthly gatherings here at the district with speakers, as well as providing support and resources for local PTA chairs to help their PTAs be more inclusive and welcoming to all members of their community. In the advocacy section, okay, this has extra things in it. We do things with legislative advocacy, but also with local advocacy. Over 25 of our school PTAs have sustainability chairs now and have worked in partnership with the district and with King County Green Schools to increase those efforts. We host monthly brown bag sessions where parents can come learn more about different topics relevant to their children's education and education topics in our district. We also host several programs, and those are some of what you see featured around the room. Our Reflections art program is part of a national PTA art contest. We host a Founders Day event in February that's a great way to celebrate the partnership we enjoy with our district staff. The basket auction that takes place that all of our PTAs participate in and contribute to and makes this entryway here very festive for the month of November and early December. It actually funds our scholarships. We provide about $16,000 a year in scholarships for graduating seniors as well as for district staff to further their education. Our emergency prep team also supports the emergency prep coordination efforts at local schools. Most PTAs have an emergency prep coordinator that works in partnership with the school to make sure those schools are ready for lots of different events. And we're really excited and looking forward to a new event come this March where they're hosting a community emergency preparedness event at Redmond High School late March, where the community will be invited in to learn more about how to be prepared in their own homes as well as being prepared to support their communities. So as way of featuring, this is always a special time of year because we're at the height of our Reflections program season. We have sent 80 entries. 43 of our 44 PTAs participated this year, and they had over 400 entries from those PTAs that came to council. So far more, each PTA only sent up 15 of their best entries. So we had over 400 entries that we reviewed at council level, and then we've sent 80 on to continue to be evaluated at the state. And our co-chairs of our Reflections program this year, Michelle Simmons and Sangeeta Dutt are here, and they're going to come up and introduce a couple of our performances that we'd like to share with you. So thank you. Okay, so that's ready when you're.
Okay, I'm Michelle Simmons and my co-chair, Sangeeta. So what we'd also like you to know is actually the program is 50 years old this year. The Reflections program this year is 50 years old. And it's a national program with over 300,000 students that participate in the program. And we had over 444 total entries this year. And at the open house, over 300 families streamed through to view the artwork. And unfortunately, that's the only time that families can actually come and read the other entries for the literature, which is a shame because we had some excellent literature come through. And although Sangeeta and I do not judge, we have judges come in that are experts in either literature, art, film, or dance. And we are actually proud to have Liam come and read his poem. He is from McCullough, 5th grade, and he actually won the spelling bee, I hear, so. It's been a good week. Would you please come introduce? And he's going to read his artist statement as well.
I would like to thank the council for inviting me to be here, and without further ado, I will begin to read Compassion Soup for the Soul. And I chose to write this poem because it shows that the outside of you isn't really important, and if you look within, it's the compassion and kindness that matters most. It also describes that small gestures of kindness that bring people together can go a long way. When you look within, You will see beneath the skin the empathy. It's the compassion that will make the heart beat faster. Then you will become the kindness master. No more pretty, no more cute. It's everyday deeds that the brain will compute. Mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the cutest of them all? No way, no way. It's what's inside that counts each day. You don't need a cape. You don't need a mask. Helping others can be even a small task. Don't worry so much about making your outsides glow. Focus on your inner strength and make it show. Anyone can be kind, no matter what age. It's by looking within that we all join hands on the world's stage.
Thank you very much. That was excellent. I really like that poem. It's one of my favorites. So I am also going to show a dance from Dasha. She's an 8th grade student at ICS, National Community School. And I'm going to read her statement for her. Her title was Look Within. The statement is, your real self may be hiding somewhere. Look for it within. The search may be lengthy and have many paths to choose from. You can follow along the paved one, or you can make your own. Break all the way through the forest. This is the choice that will change your life. Your journey will determine your own unique purpose and passion. You have the freedom to decide which path to take, which direction to go. Although it does not have the sound.
Night. I've got sound here. I've got sound there.
This is how it works. You're young until you're not. You love until you don't. You try until you can't. You laugh until you cry. You cry until you laugh. And everyone must breathe until their dying breath. No, this is how it works. You peer inside yourself. You take the things you like, then try to love the things you took. And then you take that love you made and stick it into someone else's heart, pumping someone else's blood, and walking arm in arm. You hope it don't get harmed, but even if it does, you just do it all again. On the radio, we heard November rain. That song's real long, but it's a pretty song. We listened to it twice, 'cause the DJ was asleep. Bum, ba, bum, ba, bum.
So thank you very much. I just want you guys to know that there were 43 schools that participated, so thank you.
Liam, I just want to say, as a writer for the last 40 years, that's the level I started at. I couldn't rhyme worth a hoot, but I could write. So keep writing and write forever, and you'll have a scholarship for college. That's the only way I got to school. So good going, man.
All right, well, thank you very much for the presentation. Those were very fun to see, and the live performance is always appreciated. So appreciate your taking that time to come down and do so.
May I interrupt?
Absolutely.
Thank you. I just wanted to add that I have had a lot of experience with reflections and hundreds of kids over like a 15-year period that have worked so hard to create their art and have done an amazing job despite very precise, sometimes difficult rules that even overwhelmed me at times as the chair. So I'm very impressed. Thank you so much for coming. Thanks to everybody who participated.
So our next item on the agenda is actually board public comment, which we do not currently have anybody signed up. So we will go ahead and pass on to the next one. I'd like to also offer the opportunity for anybody. I know it is a school night, so if there is some need to be able to get back home early, please feel free to leave. That is fine. But you are also welcome to stay. We do have things on the agenda, but I just know it is a school night. So with that, we will now shift to the board reorganization, which we do annually. And so with that, I will actually turn the meeting over to our superintendent.
Thank you. Tonight, there are 3 positions open, and so I will hold the temporary chair until the president is elected. The process will be to call for nominations and then declare the nominations closed. So I say that nominations are now open for president of the Lake Washington School Board.
I'll nominate Siri Bleasner.
I'll second.
Are there any additional nominations? Okay, hearing none. Siri Bleasner has been nominated for the president of the Lake Washington School Board, and nominations actually don't need a second, but appreciate it. So are there any others? We've already covered that. As there are no other nominations for president, I declare the nominations closed. There has been 1 nomination for president, and that is Siri, and we will do a roll call vote. Director Sage.
Yes.
Director LaLiberty.
Yes.
Director Carlson.
Yes.
Director Stewart.
Yes.
Director Bleasner.
Yes.
Therefore, Siri Bleasner is elected by unanimous vote to be president. And congratulations to Siri, and you can take your gavel back.
All right, well, thank you very much. Look forward to the opportunity to continuing the work we've been doing for the last few years. So thank you very much. So now our nominations are open for vice president of the board.
I'd like to nominate Mark.
I don't need to second, but I'll second.
Thank you.
Sorry, I couldn't hear that. What did Chris say?
Nomination for Mark and second for Mark.
Oh, okay. I was in second if we needed that. Excellent.
Are there any other nominations for vice president? As there are no other nominations for vice president of the board, I declare the nominations to be closed. There has been 1 nomination for vice president, and that is Mark Stewart. And we will again do a roll call vote. Director Sage?
Yes.
Director La Liberty?
Yes.
Director Carlson?
No, yes.
Director Stewart?
I'm not sure if that was a yes or not. Yes, thank you.
And Director, oh, that'd be me. Yes. So, Director Stewart, you are elected by unanimous vote to be Vice President. Thank you very much for your continued service. And our last position is for the legislative representative of the board, and this is the individual who helps to coordinate the work we do with our representatives in cities and that different work. So, nominations are open for ledge rep of the board.
I'd like to nominate Eric LaLiberty.
So Eric La Liberty has been nominated. Are there any other nominations for the board? Or for the ledge rep, I'm sorry. I'm assuming do. Eric La Liberty has been nominated. So hearing no other nominations for ledge rep, Eric La Liberty has been nominated for ledge rep of the board. And I declare the nominations now closed. There has been one nomination, Eric La Liberty, and we will do a roll call vote. Director Sage.
Yes, if Eric says yes, then yes.
Director La Liberty.
Yeah.
Director Carlson.
Yes.
Director Stewart.
Yes.
And myself, yes.
Must not be present to win.
But must be on the phone.
That's right.
So Director La Liberty is elected by unanimous vote to be our legislative rep. Thank you again. That is a lot of effort in being able to keep that coordinated. So thank you all very much. And we will now move on to the consent agenda. So one second, just rearranging a few things here. So our next item is the approval of the consent agenda. So I will entertain a motion to approve. Eric, I believe you might have a request.
Yeah, I just want timing wise, do we need a motion? Do I move now to amend the consent agenda?
Yes.
If I so wish?
Yep.
Okay, then I move to amend the consent agenda to remove OGP 5 from the consent agenda.
Okay. So what we will do is we will move OGP 5 to the non-consent agenda. It'll be the first item we do there from the consent agenda. OGP 5 is about the board reorganization and the timing of it.
I will second that motion.
Okay? All those in favor of removing it?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Then it will be moved to the first item on the non-consent. Any other items on the consent agenda?
Move approval as amended.
Second.
It has been moved by Director Carlson and seconded by Director Stewart to approve the consent agenda as amended. Dr. Staven, will you please poll the board?
I will, and before I do that, I'm going to take just a moment of privilege, and as part of the consent agenda on the personnel report, we wanted to call out Roger Neal. Roger is retired just recently and served in our warehouse for 41 and a half years of service. And so let's just give him a round of applause. That is outstanding. And of course, we'll have a chance to honor our retirees, but as they leave during the year, it's a little bit harder sometimes to recognize them, and we just wanted to congratulate Roger on that outstanding service.
41 years is worthy of retirement. Anybody
Yes,
left that
it
long,
is.
he deserves
41
it.
and a half.
Well, a half.
So with that, I will now call the roll. Director Carlson,
Yes.
President Bleasner,
Yes.
Director Stewart,
Yes.
Director La Liberty,
Yes.
Director Sage.
Yes.
And Dr. Staven, could you summarize the donations?
I will. We have a very large amount this month for our summary. We have a grand total of $335,638.59. Of that, $3,200 is coming from the Lake Washington Schools Foundation, and from our PTSA, the amount of $252,037.14, and from private sources, the amount of $80,401.45. And we appreciate the generosity of our community and all of the ways that they give to support our school district.
Yes, thank you very much for that support. It really does help to make sure that our schools are community schools and our kids are able to get all the services and enhancements that they need. So the next item on the non-consent agenda will be the Operational Governance Policy 5 of Board Reorganization. So Director LaLiberty, I'm going to pass it off to you to be able to explain why you wanted to pull it from the consent agenda.
Sure. I just have one pretty simple amendment in terms of the text. If you look at the very first sentence of OGP 5, it says that the board will hold reorganization at the first meeting of January, or maybe the second meeting of January. I don't have it in front of me. I would move to amend that to read that the board will hold its reorganization at the second meeting in June, or the last meeting in June of every year, and otherwise leave OGP 5 unchanged.
Any questions or clarifications?
No, I was going to second that and then put a little bit of context behind this. It takes fresh eyes sometimes, and since I have been on the board, this is the way we have done it. But the fact is that when our new superintendent arrived, she asked a very rational question. Why do you reorg in the middle of the school year? Putting our school board reorg in sync with the school year will actually be beneficial for the work of the board and for the work of the district. And so historically it's been just in case your president is unseated at an election. In practice, our policies have a succession plan in place. So should that happen, there is a contingency already. Therefore, we believe that it is a more effective way for the board to work to do this in sync with the school year. So hopefully we can revisit our reorg in June, a little bit early once, but then again back on an annual cycle.
Any other discussion, or I will entertain a motion to approve as amended?
A discussion, if that's all right.
That's fine.
As the newest board member, this is year 3, it did confuse me starting at the very beginning of the fiscal year why we were reorging right away. And mostly it was because I was drinking from the fire hose and learning a lot. I think for new board members in the future coming on, it will help them to come on in June and have the summer to learn before the school year starts again. I think that's a big benefit for new board members. So.
Well, you'll still come on the January when you have won your election, but you'll first deal with the reorg after you've gotten your feet wet, I believe is what you're just saying.
But you also have a chance to be at every board meeting in August.
Yes.
And learn.
Yes,
and
correct.
Instead of
Yes.
right into the thick of things, I think
Yes.
it's a great adjustment for new board members.
Yeah.
Speaking from experience, I agree with this.
So I will entertain a motion about OGP 5.
Yes, move approval as amended.
I think I intended to make a motion. Maybe I didn't articulate it well, but my motion was to amend it to read the last meeting of June.
Okay, so then I'm looking for a second.
You have the second.
Okay. Any further discussion?
I couldn't hear everything that everyone was saying, but I wanted to thank Chris for articulating everything that I would have articulated, and I'll add nothing further.
Thank you for the confidence.
Okay, hearing no more discussion, then I will ask for a vote as to, for those, I'm sorry, it's been a very long day. I've been in meetings for the last 3 days. So all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, so with that, we have now approved OGP 5, the board reorganization, as amended. So that will be changing January to say the second meeting in June. Thank you. So with this process, we actually now have passed all our board policies at this point in time for the revised version. And the reasonable interpretations of those, as those were on the consent agenda. So we will be beginning the monitoring report process is the next step that's going to become. So this will be another process of hearing now how well those policies are being implemented and that component, and then we'll be looking at that as we go through for the next 4 months, actually, is probably how long those monitoring reports will take, and then we'll start the cycle again. So thank you for all that work and getting all that done. It's exciting to have that started. Thank you for staff for getting all that done. That was also a lot of work and being able to pull those together. We look forward to the new reports and being able to hold those conversations about where we're at. So thank you. And so our next item is the redirecting of bond proceeds and matching funds. So Dr. Stavum.
Yes, and I will ask Barbara Posthumus, our Associate Superintendent of Business and Support, to come up. And she's going to kind of set the stage for us, and then following that, we will have a public hearing regarding our redirecting of bond proceeds and matching funds as outlined in Resolution Number 2283. And we are scheduled to take action on that actually at our next board meeting on the 24th.
Great. Thank you very much. So tonight, we are having a public hearing regarding our 2016 bonds and redirecting those funds and matching funds. And just to give some background, the voters passed those bonds in April 2016 for 8 projects. You'll hear about those projects tonight in our facility update, but that included new elementary schools, a new middle school, rebuilding, enlarging, Juanita High School, Kirk Elementary School, Meade Elementary School, and replacing, Explorer, and remodeling Old Redmond Schoolhouse. And so the bonds have been sold, and 398 million of those bonds have been sold. We are continuing to construct projects. We have 6 of the 8 projects have opened, and the remaining projects will open this fall. So we are expecting, while the projects are not finalized, our current estimates right now with the bond proceeds and the other revenues, state construction assistance, impact fees, interest earnings, we're expecting right now that those revenues will exceed the cost of our completed projects by approximately $10 million. And this information was shared with the board back in a June study session. And so since those bonds were passed, we've also passed a 2019 6-year capital projects levy to address our critical capacity needs. And these projects are being funded with those capital levy proceeds, and as well as some prior 2006 bonds and state construction assistance funds. And the district has already repurposed the 2006 bonds. We repurposed them back in October 2014 for additional capacity projects, and then again in May of 2019 to fund the additions and the current capacity projects. And so because right now we have multiple sources of revenue for our capital construction projects that are being used to complete these projects, the 2006 bonds that I mentioned, the 2016 bonds, and the 2019 capital project 6-year levy. Revenues from those streams are coming in at different, the timing of those revenue streams is different, and the expenditures are ongoing and overlapping. So working with our legal counsel, they have recommended that we go ahead and repurpose the 2016 bonds so that all the funds can be used in the same manner as the 2006 funds. And this will allow the funds to be used on any approved bond and levy project. It allows our estimated remaining bonds to be used for other approved capital projects and allows the same use as the 2006 bonds. And so the draft resolution that's attached includes the additions, when I say additions, the new added items that the bond can be used for, and that includes acquiring and equipping portables, remodeling classrooms as necessary, provide for required bond planning, interior building modifications, provide for district-wide upgrades for building safety and security, acquire property for future expansion, and construct and equip additions. And so those are the items that are officially being requested for repurposing the 26 bond, in addition to all the other things that are already approved for that bond. So in order to redirect these bond funds and state matching funds, it's necessary for the board to hold a public hearing, and then after the public hearing at the next meeting, adopt the resolution modifying the original bond, the bond resolution. So tonight we will have the public hearing, and then at the next meeting, we would ask the board to act on the redirecting of the bond proceeds.
Thank you.
questions?
Any questions? No, we appreciated the update that we got on that and with the multiple different bonds and the repurposing. So at
And
this time,
Yep.
go ahead.
And I just, just another main point I want to make is, again, this doesn't change the work that is already going on and doesn't change the projects that we are already committed to doing and our commitment to voters to complete those projects.
Thank you. So at this time, I will open the public hearing for the redirecting bond proceeds and matching funds as outlined in Resolution Number 2283. The board is scheduled to take action on this resolution at the February 24th board meeting. If you wish to speak on this topic, please step to the center podium, and each individual will be provided with up to 3 minutes to speak. It does not appear there is anybody coming forward to speak. All right. So seeing that no one is here to provide testimony, I will announce that the public hearing is now closed. Is there any board discussion at this point?
I just want to reiterate for the public that this is a standard thing when you finish a set of bond projects. If you have husbanded your cash carefully, which we are happy to say we have done, you may have some left over. Given the current crowding that we are experiencing in our district, it would be rather callous to our students and irresponsible for us as educational leaders to not spend that money in a way that will help improve education through capital projects. Capital projects can be as mundane as the installation of yet a few more portables around our district to deal with the extra overcrowding that we are still grappling with. So this is a way that we can officially and legally repurpose those bonds for projects that weren't necessarily on the bond measure originally. Thanks.
Thank you. Director Stewart?
I
think it's not due in small part to the fact that the funds were used very well for the construction projects we're on, and that we have this ability to go back and repurpose these because of efficient use of the funds that the voters gave us.
Seeing no more discussion, so as I stated earlier, the board is scheduled to approve this resolution at the February 24th board meeting. If you were to have further questions, you can feel free to email, and those can be answered that way, or utilize our Let's Talk and provide that way, and we can be able to respond to any of that if you have any feedback you'd like to give at that point in time. Anything else? All right, well, thank you. So the last item on our non-consent agenda is the strategic plan connection. So Dr. Stavum.
Yes, tonight we're going to have Brian Buck, who is our Director of Support Services, join Barbara for an update on our facilities. And just to spice it up a little bit, I think we have an update on how things went during our snow event. And just to keep it very current, I believe we're also throwing in just a little bit of flooding. So we'll just round it out tonight with all kinds of news on how things are going with our facilities.
All right. Well, thanks for having me. Our strategic alignment is with the effective use of resources. So an update on the bond projects. Again, as Barbara mentioned, we had 8 projects on the 2016 bond. Juanita High School, Phase 1 opened in this fall, and Phase 2 will open next fall. You can kind of see in this aerial picture, the new wing. You can tell by the roofing isn't quite the same as the Phase 1 building. And in this schematic here, it's the gray portion that is Phase 2. So accomplishments to date. The brick veneer on the siding is complete in January, along with storm detention piping. And in February, we got quite a bit of work going on, including the paving of the bus loop. And we're starting with some finishes going in February. These pictures, the top picture being the south end of the football stadium, looking at the new wing there. On the left is the storm detention under the bus loop. In the bottom center is the new courtyard with the siding going up. And the bottom right is the new, just a close-up of the new wing there. Timberline Middle School opened in the fall. Our CTE culinary classroom was completed in October, and now essentially coming up is our warranty walk in June, and then we'll have a post-occupancy evaluation the following October. This is a couple pictures. On the left is the library, and then on the right is our opening ceremony. And to the left here is, the usefulness of the writable walls you can see on the left, and then on the right is the tackable surface. Peter Kirk Elementary aerial here. You can see the new field coming in. This is a joint project with the City of Kirkland to provide a grass field, and that's starting to come in nicely. This project opened in the fall as well. Let's see. Peter Kirk Elementary, probably the biggest piece here is the Excellence in Masonry Award winner in November by the Washington State Institute of Masonry. So that's nice. The grass field will open in late spring, and then we'll have our warranty walk in July, and then a post-occupancy evaluation.
Can I stop you there?
Sure.
Go back to the pictures of Kirk.
Yeah.
Do you know what is unique about the masonry there that won the award?
Let's see if I have some pictures. Nope. It's just, I'll send you guys some pictures of the block. It's really quite nice. It's a block type. I have the exact finish, but it was a first place award winner. Yeah. Pictures wise, this is a close up on the left of the new sign and the grass field in the background. On the top right is Monica giving her tour guides a path, going through the path of the tour on the opening ceremony. And then there's the ribbon cutting on the bottom. Mead Elementary, this is the aerial of the Mead Elementary site. The playground, play field were completed in October. The opening ceremonies in November. And next up will be the warranty walk and the post-occupancy evaluation. Here's the super graphic of, on the left there, we got the playground on the top right, and then on the bottom right is the patio, covered patio on the art science room. Old Redmond Schoolhouse on the left. This is to open in the fall. On the left is the tuck pointing that's going on the exterior, on the west side of the exterior there. The accomplishments so far, the roof installation is complete. The tuck pointing is complete. Exterior cladding was demolished in December. The mechanical electrical rough ends going in January, and along with exterior siding. In February, our interior finishes are beginning. And on the left here, you can see some of the window repair. On the top middle is some of our exterior perimeter walls that are having the framing going on. And then we have mechanical electrical rough-in on the bottom middle. And on the right is, again, window repair. This is just a picture of our completed projects. Open fall 2018-19 is Baker and Barton, and Explorer opened in fall of 2017. Sure.
I'll just do the quick finance update. Our revenues, the left bar is kind of the original plan of bond, impact fees, state construction assistance funds. And then on the right side, you can see that we've got the majority of our revenues in bond. Our impact fees are higher than planned. We have $8 million in interest earnings, and what we still are waiting for is our state construction assistance money. Those come in at the end of the projects, and so those will come in over the next 2 years. On the expenditure side of things, the program is spent out at $429 million, was the original plan. So far, we've spent $387 million. Expenditures are on track. 90% of the project has been spent so far.
Okay, the 2019 six-year capital projects levy includes permanent classrooms at 5, additions at 5 schools, plus core expansion for common space and safety and security upgrades. Here's the map of the locations: Twain Elementary, Rose Hill, Lake Washington High School, Franklin Elementary, and Carson Elementary. Here's a rendering of the new addition at Lake Washington High School, due to open in the fall 2020. Let's see. Topping off ceremony happened in December for the new classroom addition. Second floor concrete slab finished in December. We have the roofing going on in February. The envelope will be enclosed in March. Say that again? The information meeting we had last. Oh, yeah. And that's in the, yeah. So for the gym expansion, we had an information community night just the other week. I think we say that in the next. Yeah. Here is the kids signing the beam for the topping off ceremony, and then the beam going up and then setting into place. To the left is just the finishing of the envelope there, and then the interior studs going in. The high school core expansion includes a common expansion and then a new auxiliary gym. And this is where we had our information night last week. We have design development complete. We have land surface modification submitted in January. Our construction documents will be complete in May, and construction will begin as soon as school ends this summer. For the elementary school additions in Kirkland, these are renderings or schematics for Franklin, Twain, and Rose Hill. Construction will begin in the summer at these 3 sites as well. Let's see, design development was completed in December. We had good neighbor meetings. Will happen in May, construction documents in June. Again, at all 3 of these sites, we had community information meetings in November and December. For Carson Elementary, this is the schematic design here. The purple is where the new wing is going up. Again, we have a pre-app meeting in April with design development to follow in July. The opening of Carson is the following year. For core expansion, concept design will be completed in August 2019. Feasibility study, May 2020. So for safety and security upgrades, the elementary school security cameras will be installed this summer. Concept design is underway for the high school secured entry modifications. We'll have a finalized recommendation here shortly in the spring. For the portable classrooms, we're relocating 10 portables from Lake Washington High School. 6 are at Rose Hill Middle School. 2 at Kirkland Middle School, and 2 at Inglewood Middle School. And then we'll be adding 10 new portables this summer, 1 at Sandburg, 3 at Thoreau, 3 at Frost, and 3 at Bell.
A quick financial update on the 2019 levy. On the program revenues, that was $144 million planned, both revenues and planned project expenditures, and the revenues were made up of 2 things, the 6-year levy and the 2006 remaining state construction assistance funds. So we have those on hand already, so that's why you see a program to date. We've received the $24 million in state construction assistance funds. On the expenditure side, right now, so far, we've only spent $11 million, but things are ramping up this summer, and we're expecting to need to spend about $100 million through the next year. And so we shared with the board at the January study session the potential need to front fund the revenues with a LGO bond sale, so we'll be bringing that to the board in March.
Okay, so for communication, we have our monthly bond e-news. We continue to share photographs and video stories. We have Facebook Live broadcasts. Our annual bond progress mailer went out just the other day. Community information nights have been ongoing. Good neighbor meetings happen right before construction happens. Here's our Building on Success site where we have a link where you can ask questions. For the Facility Advisory Committee, we convened the Facility Advisory Committee. We have 33 members consisting of parents, community, city, and city staff, as well as our staff. The committee will make recommendations for future planning. We've met 3 times since November with 4 meetings to go. Right now, we're getting community feedback through the Thought Exchange tool, and that's running through February 12th. All of our meeting materials are on the district website. All right, winter storm. So in preparation after last year's winter storm, we ordered additional equipment. We ordered more snow plows and a sand ice spreader, and as well as a walk-behind snow sweeper and walk-behind snow plow. We provided our custodians with new equipment, ergo shovels, a hand plow, which is really a snow pusher, walk-behind ice melt spreaders, and then we provided all of our maintenance, bus drivers, and custodial staff with ice cleats. And we established service agreements with 2 plowing services. So for the storm that happened on January 13th through the 15th, we removed 8,000 tons of snow, covered the same miles in area of 900 miles, spent in district labor hours, 1,700 labor hours. The materials used was 12 tons of ice melt, 65 tons of sand, and 1,600 gallons of de-icer. And in comparison to last year's big event, we actually spread more ice melt and more sand than we did last year, and part of that is with our contracted assistance. Equipment-wise, we had 4 snow plows going 16 hours a day, 2 sanding and ice melt trucks going. We had a skid steer and a tractor removing snow from hardscapes. We had the 6 powered either snow bolt blowers or the snow brush and the snow blow. And then we had contractor assistance that had 6 snow plows and 6 tractors and front loaders. And in fact, at Juanita High School, we actually had Cornerstone General Contractors remove the snow from Juanita High School because they were already on site. So just a reminder, the average time to complete a site, to plow a site, an elementary school is 4 hours, 6 hours for a middle school, and about 8 hours for a high school. For our team, it's really all hands on deck. The custodians, the trades, the grounds department, the mechanics, and the bus drivers are all working to help us through it. And then this year, kind of in that picture there, is we have kind of a standard report out that we send out twice a day to building administrators that showed the status of their site. And so you know that the way we go about it in a storm is we plow the entry to the site first, then we plow the loops, bus loop, then parent loop, and then we plow the parking lot aisles, and then the parking lot stalls, and then after that, we work on this public sidewalks. And so this storm effort was kind of not nearly the amount of snow, but it kept hitting us over and over. So we had to essentially plow the same site multiple times. So we got to a few of the public sidewalks this time, but not as many as we had hoped. And then came the flooding. So just last week with all the rain, our support services site flooded. And so you can see on the top left is really where our warehouse trucks are. The bottom left there is one of our buses in the corner of our bus lot. And then on Sunday, we got a picture of someone kayaking in our bus lot there. Thanks to our transportation group, they were able to, when it started flooding, move trucks out into our front lot and move buses out into areas, and then the next day scrambled to get everyone to their correct bus. 2 hours late. Yeah, on a 2 hours late, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm just going to insert there, I'm sure there were questions as to why we had the 2-hour late start. This was part of it, is because we had dismantled our entire bus fleet to be other places. But we have, a large number of staff members who live in places where they had to come through where there were roads closed. And the daily commute, we know what that can look like just on a normal day for people, but we had many people who had significant disruptions to their life for multiple days, and I know some of them aren't done with that yet because of the road closures, and to get everybody here to serve all of our students and help our families get students to our schools safely. That's why we had the 2-hour late start. So this is just a little taste of what some of our flooding looked like.
Okay, I think that's it. Yep.
I want to say one more thing. Brian and his team and Barbara and her team, this is not a normal construction schedule. And that will be my mantra from here on out. This is not normal. We have such a huge trajectory of incoming students that the district has worked tirelessly to build out, build new, build on, build wherever we can, and they continue to come, which is why we continue to need those portables. Logic would say that when you build a new school, the portables go away, but due to the rapid enrollment growth that we have in our district, we're not able to do that. But what it takes to manage that type of construction schedule, plus just the regular work of a district, and then you throw in a flood and a snowstorm, we have people who are masterful at systems. And I have to say that Brian is masterful at systems and schedules, and our principals have been very pleased with the responsiveness of Brian and his team, and Barbara overseeing all things finance and construction and bonds and levies. There's just a lot going on in our district. So I want to take this time to just thank both of them for the work that runs really like clockwork. And unfortunately, it's round the clock work when we have some of these events. And we appreciate our staff who are walking behind the snow plows. I would want to be in the trucks, but apparently some have to walk. And so we appreciate that. It's cold, it's dark, and it's a lot of hard work. So thanks to all of you for getting us through all of these big projects that we have.
Great, thank you.
So thank you. I'd like to, Director Sage has a question.
Are we able to effectively partner with our municipalities on these types of projects? I know the cities are out trying to do some snow clearance as well. How did that go this year?
It went well. We had good communication. Actually, we worked with our risk management group too, who also has emergency management contacts with the city. And so we were able to work with them, and we got some streets, especially Twain was a difficult site during the snowstorm. For most of the days that we were closed, you needed a 4x4 to get there. So we worked with the city of Kirkland to help us plow into that site. But overall, yes, they're very responsive. They just have their own priority schedule as it relates to public roads.
Any other questions, comments? Director Stewart?
You're not allowed to leave for FEMA. I'm sorry.
So seeing no other questions, thank you very much. Absolutely fabulous. Good work. That is a phenomenal amount of building that is going on in a very short time. And actually in our meeting prior where we talked about the growth that is continuing from there, it's amazing to know how many more seats we have opened and yet how many new seats are still needed in which to address the growth that's coming. So excellent job in keeping things moving and keeping them on budget. This has also been in one of those very tight times. Construction costs have elevated a lot, and we are still meeting what we said we would do within the budget that we have. And so thank you for your attention to all those details as well.
Great.
Thank you. So it's exciting to have all these new things and this new core space coming on as well, to be able to help that. Those additions are fun. I thought it was neat that you moved the library of Twain over, and now we're putting the classrooms where the library was. Very clever. So appreciate those thoughtfulness on how to really place these things in. Okay, so our next item on the agenda is Public and Community Affairs. So Mark and Cassandra, you were both in Washington, D.C. at the National School Board Association Advocacy Institute. So if you can share with us any highlights that you had while you were there.
I would love to. First, I have to say that I chose among many different conferences where I would go this year, and this was the one, and it did not disappoint. I spent 5 consecutive days learning so much information. Some's on my computer, some's on a notepad they handed me. So I have to compile everything, but it was a great use of our time. We started with an entire day of equity before we moved into the advocacy part, and there is a training coming up in our district in March for staff and board members to start an equity training. And I would have to say that things that were suggested at a federal level as far as equity goes are the same things that sound like it will be mirrored in this training. So there is a cohesion there. And I think that we will be able to catch up to where we are as a nation soon. Nationally, there was a 35% drop in education majors between 2009 and 2014, and that's making it difficult to recruit highly effective teachers and leaders. And so the federal government is looking at different ways they can offer some scholarships or loan forgiveness and try to strengthen those programs, especially for really high need majors like the STEM, different categories of teacher, and also foreign language and special education. There's also a digital divide that might not necessarily affect us as much since we live in high-tech area, but some school districts around the state are using buses with Wi-Fi on them and parking them near students who don't have access to the internet so that they can at least get some homework done on the weekends, assuming they have a device. Maybe the school has had to issue them, but just trying to get kids more connected and kind of help that socioeconomic gap in services that sometimes occur. There's a big focus on student privacy and student data protection that's happening at a national level. And when we did meet with our members of Congress, interestingly enough, they had been given a poll a few months earlier, and they were asked, what is the effect for your office? How much do you pay attention to? How much influence do lobbyists have when they come to your office? And they said 8%. They said, how much influence does an individual constituent coming to your office have on your decision-making? They said 54%. And when asked constituent groups, meetings with groups like the National School Board Association, and in particular the state of Washington delegates that went to these meetings, they said it had an influence of 95% on what their decision would be. And the thing that they asked us for the most was send us your stories. Share your stories with us so that we can have a rapid visual of what you are experiencing. And so then we can then take that story and pass it on. We need to know what you're struggling with. And I think Director Stewart had an example of a story that he shared on a couple of occasions.
Okay. Yeah, no kidding. I found that when we have with the folks, they have a broad concept of how it applies to the overall budgets, but what they don't understand is the variations in what it means on a personal level, and the idea of being able to have kids, especially the special needs kids. I mean, IDEA was adopted, believe it or not, when I was in junior high school, and that's going back a few days. And it's never been fully funded. And one of the things we're looking at is not so much a reauthorization now, but we're looking at the budgets for IDEA and going those up a staircase, if you will, as opposed to trying to go for a total reauthorization in this current climate. They also, our Washington representatives and their staffs that we met with had no idea that of the problem that had been created by McCleary with special needs groups, and the fact that there is a component that, since special needs basically is basic education, yet they created a conundrum where we are going to get dinged, perhaps, more than likely, although yesterday, I guess it was, the superintendent of OSPI said, oh no, we're not going to ding you, and unfortunately he doesn't control the auditors. He controls the public education. And when we pointed this out, that we had this, basically a push me pull you, if you go back to Dr. Doolittle, situation where if we do comply with the state government, then we don't comply with the federal government. And so it's a matter of trying to make sure that each of the levels work out together. There's a number of stories that we have, the students that it's great situations, but it's perhaps you have students still have needs. We have a situation where if we, and the folks on Capitol Hill didn't realize that if we spend $1 for communication skills early on, whether in preschool or first grade, we save $7 spent on behavioral skills in the high schools. And not only does it give the student a better life and a better ability to learn, but it also then it's one of those twofers. Not only is it good for the kid, but it's also good for the ability for budgets and so forth. We were able to meet with all the staffs, and we had representatives from the entire state. That was one of the great aspects of the delegations that went to Washington. And I noticed another number of states that didn't have that widespread, and I think it really has a great impact on our folks. And the staff level expertise in our representatives and our Senate staffs is fantastic. They've got some great depth of knowledge. If I recall correctly, one of the folks, I believe is in Representative Del Benny's office, was actually a graduate of one of the high schools from our delegations. So it was a great experience, and I think that timing is always critical. We hit during the day of the State of the Union. We hit during the middle of impeachment, and to be able to get their attention during, I would say, conflicting time zones or conflicting time commitments was amazing. And our folks came through for us, and we came through for them.
And I would just add to that, our entire delegation broke up into the different sort of congressional areas so that those of us who reside within that border would be in the same meeting. And it was a very some of the meetings with Del Bene's office actually was very, almost one-to-one in some cases, very intimate, and you were able to get a lot of your points across. And, you know, the idea was to fund special education at a federal level at 40%, and I believe we are currently receiving 14.6% in our district. So there is a big difference there, and as we were going through these meetings, we realized if IDEA, Individuals with Disability Education Act, if it was fully funded, it would add the ability for us to take on more mental health counselors, which would help everybody, add some physical upgrades to safety in our buildings, which would help everybody, and we would see graduation rate increases for students on 504s and IEP plans that, you know, currently are struggling. And those supports are very needed, and hopefully we will see some traction.
Well, thank you. I'm glad you were both able to go and be part of that delegation, and we'll continue that work from here with them locally. So now, in addition to that, both Mark and I were able to attend along with Director Stavum, as well as and John and Barbara were also there at the legislative conference this weekend in Olympia, and for Day on the Hill today. So, Mark, would you have anything to share about that?
Sure. The same conundrum that we mentioned with the federal level, we brought up with the state level, and they really didn't understand that what the impact this has on levies and the ability for us to use our levy dollars efficiently. And one of the solutions we could come up with in such a short session is perhaps a Band-Aid where they're mandating the use in one area. They would have a forgiveness for any kind of audit situation, and it's a Band-Aid. The proper solution is to fund our special needs programs. Until that date comes, we have to work with the situation we have. We had, I think, we met with, of course, we have a unique district where we have so much area that we cover. We fit into about 4 or 5 different legislative districts. I was envious of the folks out on Mercer Island who only has 1, and so that makes their job very easy. And but we were able to meet with all of our folks, and they were all very understanding. They understand they have various needs, and even those that are not on committees in education, they realize the impact that every one of their committees has on education.
Yeah, and I would just add, as you think through the legislative priorities that we put forward back in October, so some of the work that we were doing, the key pieces that we were working on, special education funding was definitely one component of that, and the continued underfunding of that. In addition was the enrichment of the staffing model. So if you go back to the prototypical funding model that we have, the big piece, and this will be a continuation as we go forward, and sort of laying the groundwork, and you kind of brought this up, Director Sage, when you talked about the social emotional learning and how you could free up funds. So right now we spend a great portion of our levy dollars in supporting the mental health and well-being through some of our social workers, as well as school nurses, counselors, in which to enhance those services. So the prototypical model, the issue is it hasn't been revised and updated, especially not in the social emotional learning side and those staffing positions when you think of counselors, schools. So there was a working group that just did their recommendations that came out in December. So speaking with your representatives and some of the key things, I know we have community groups that are doing a lot of work with mental health. These recommendations came out of let's enhance that prototypical school model in those areas so that we actually are providing funding for more school nurses, more school counselors, more mental health, and be able to better serve our students from that side. So it's kind of a good possibility to start that conversation. Strong support from OSPI, as well as a bill already dropped. Unlikely the cost associated with it to truly fund it at their recommendation is about $6 billion, if I remember right, over the period of 6 years. So the reality is everybody knows it's a big lift, but it's a time to really talk about what are the possibilities. So we were beginning those conversations with everybody. I will say people are very supportive of trying to work in this area. There are always just concerns of the challenges in which you look at across all the needs within the state and the different components and dealing with funding issues. So I think that was it. The other place we really worked with was SEB, the education benefits or employee benefits, and trying to make sure that we do some technical fixes on that component that will make it better for our staff as well as for us, and being able to better be able to utilize our local levy dollars for what they're meant for. So that was sort of the work we got to do. So well worth it to go down there, and they always appreciate seeing us and all very welcoming. So they're doing good work.
I think we also have a unique position in the state that we have a very good ongoing relationship, and it's not a one-off, once-a-year situation. So we have, with our continuing dialogue with our legislators, both in the House and the Senate, we have a familiarity, and they know us, we know them, and it's ongoing, so they know that when they need help with a situation, they can call on us, and we can call on you folks then to help us with those situations, even if they're not directly education, such as Senator Wellman is working on how to get better housing abilities for not only teachers to be able to be local, but also for firefighters and police officers. And by doing that, you have a more cohesive community. And the fact that she recognizes that as a component is, it may not be on the books as an education issue, but it is.
All right, thank you. Eric, are there any other public or community affairs you'd like to mention?
No, I don't have anything to add. Thanks, Mark.
Okay, thank you. So Dr. Saban will now move to the superintendent report.
Yeah, and I think we've covered a lot of ground tonight. The complexities of all of this are amazing because we look at bills in isolation, but they are all very interconnected, and our ability to continue to pass measures. We want to make sure that that simple majority doesn't fall off the radar of our legislators, of being able to pass bonds at 50% rather than 60%. But just knowing, like Cassandra said, that when we have full funding in other areas, it allows us to then free up funds, or when we're allowed to use funding in the way that it was intended, that's where we want to make sure that we maximize those dollars for our students. So not a simple process, and we appreciate your advocacy. I'm just going to mention, of course, big in the news right now has been the coronavirus, and we want to continue to point people towards the resources that we have on our website, which guides them to the Department of Health. We are in close contact with them, and everything that people are doing to coordinate the preventative care as well as planning for any further activity in our state. And we do not have any active cases in our district. We continue to really stress all of those good hygiene habits like we do for the regular old flu, which now seems funny because that's kind of old news, and now we have this other virus that people are concerned about. But we need everybody to make sure that they are washing hands and taking good care of themselves. And if a student is sick, like we would always request that a parent keeps them home and that they are fever-free for the recommended amounts of time. So we're going to continue to monitor that, and if people have questions, we have quite a lot of resources on our webpage. You can look at Too Sick for School and find all of the information that you need there. And should we need to issue additional guidance, we'll take our cues from the health department and make that available to parents as quickly as possible. So that would be all I would have to share this evening.
Thank you. Any additional board member comments?
That was some excellent public health announcement.
Coming from you, that means a lot.
Yes, you got all the important details right.
Okay, seeing no other comments, the upcoming board meeting will be held on February 24th. The study session will be in the Hughes here at the Resource Center, and topic will be school capacity and enrollment update. We'll be continuing. And then we have a reception for the National Board Certified Teachers that evening as well. Board meeting will follow at 7 p.m. that night. With that, I will now entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move adjournment.
Second.
It's been moved by Director Carlson and seconded by Director Sage that we adjourn. All those in favor, please signify by voting aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Meeting is now adjourned.